Hi, and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello, and after a very long time off, welcome to 9 to 42, which is the podcast from the guys at the Guitar Show UK. And it's been ages, which means Jace has moved offices after falling out with his previous landlord. How are you, Jace?
I'm all right, thanks, mate.
I'm allowed to mention that?
No, not really. Let's just move on.
Oh, okay, fine. So how are you then, anyway?
I'm good. Show's doing really well. In fact, the show is actually sold out, so happy days.
Just for our one listener, every time I speak to Jace, the first thing he says is, "Oh, I'll give you an update. The show's sold out." So as far as I'm concerned, it's been sold out for 6 months, but every single time we speak, it's actually sold out again. Does that mean it's really sold out, or are you giving me the salesman spiel now?
No, it genuinely, unless anybody pulls out, this is it. It's full. Can't get any more people in.
And we haven't done one of these since the last show, have we?
We have.
Did we do some after it?
We did some after it, yeah.
Right, okay. I'm losing all sort of track of where we are. Anyway, we're back with a bang with series number... Series
3.
We're on? 3?
3.
And over the moon to have Andy Guitar with us for the very first episode. So, hello to you, Andy.
Hello, guys. How are we?
Good, thank you. Good. So,
I'm really well. I've just had quiche. I don't know why that should... but I've had quiche and I'm feeling fine.
Quiche is good.
Lorraine's quiche, and bless her.
Good.
And it was top drawer. We came on this call, and the first question, as always is, with me is, oh, that's a strange accent, where you're from? So I'm going to ask Andy the same question again, which is, oh, Andy, that's a strange accent, where you from?
Yeah, so Barnsley originally, which is in South Yorkshire, north of England, but that is via University in Huddersfield, that is via Leeds, which has an awful lot of London people in Leeds as well. I think they move up for work. And I've now lived in Brighton for 6 years. So, yeah, it's via all those places. I also talk on the internet for a living. So if I spoke with a Barnsley accent, which is a bit more up now than civvy, no one would have a blinking clue what I was on about. So, yeah, I enunciate a lot more on the internet than I do in real life, so my partner tells me.
You do enunciate beautifully, actually.
Thank you.
It's like when you go to the NAMM show, and like, obviously I'm a Brummie, and like I turn into Hugh Grant when I'm in California. Otherwise, they'd never understand a word that I was saying.
You have to. There's a thing where you're trying to be authentic to the accent, but your dialect has to go. Otherwise, people just go, sorry, what did you say? And it's on things that you'll never understand. But I had that even the first week of university, because even at university in Huddersfield, it was mainly... well, anyone from down south, far more southerners than northerners there, as we'd say, and a lot of people from London. So, yeah, they could not... I'd literally say, hey, what would I say? Hey up, I'm Andy, something like that. And they'd go, what?
You're a what?
And yeah, I really didn't take offence. It's just like, you just have to figure it out, I guess.
Well, I'm going to jump in here, because I have questions, mainly because I live in Home Firth. So I'm not
a lovely part of the world.
I'm not.
I've been to the Picture Dome, by the way.
Oh yeah, well it's a stunning venue, fantastic venue.
Pretty much the cheapest pint you will be able to buy in a live music venue, at least in the UK.
And still one of the best little sweat boxes of a venue around. It's a fantastic.
It has
venue.
A balcony though. It's not too little a sweat box. It's got a slanted floor as well. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I saw Michael Parkinson there.
Yes, I'm familiar.
But there we are. Anyway.
Who else have we got? We've got Darren Goff. We've got Dickie Bird.
God, I feel like I'm like
yes,
Yorkshire.
a lot of the cricketers. But Michael Parkinson's a great example where there's a part of a suburb of Barnsley called, well, he would say Cudworth, and I would say Cudworth. Yeah. If I was talking to my family, it's Cudworth. Or Cudworth. But yeah, it's the vowel sounds, isn't it? And Americans kind of love it. And to a lot of Americans, I find apparently I just sound like a Beatle, because a bit like we are with their accents, they just clump big areas of the UK together in accents. So, to us, a Southern American accent all just sounds the same. It's that y'all thing. And to them, I just sound like a Beatle. So I'm like, you know what? I will take it. In my job, that's pretty good.
So quick few questions then. Quick fire. Barnsley Football Club, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely. Till I die.
Good lad. You're a tyke. Good lad. I like that. Brilliant. I'm a Blade, as it goes, but we like Blades and Barnsley fans get on quite nicely. Why Huddersfield? Why Huddersfield University?
They had a lot of investment just before I joined, and they had the best recording studios that I saw on the open days. I also decided I wasn't quite ready yet to take the step to London or anywhere further afield, so I was very much looking in the north of England, and that one was the one.
And for those who don't know, and you can be forgiven for not knowing, actually Barnsley and Huddersfield, which are very close together, also are actually poles apart. For anybody who's lived in South and West Yorkshire, they are actually they're very northern, both of them, but there is a definite difference when you cross over the M1 and you come across to Huddersfield. So it does feel like you're going to a different place.
It does, but it was close enough so that I could...
get your washing done.
I literally did. I also worked back home. I actually worked at Halfords while I was in my first 2 years of uni on a Saturday and a Sunday. So that's how close they were. But there's entire words that don't exist between even those two places, which are 45 minutes apart. Like laking out is the best one. We should probably ask Jason, what does laking out mean? What do you think that means?
I have literally no idea.
Ant, what would you say it means?
Do you know what? I've got no idea either.
Yes! There you go. So it means playing. Playing out is something you would ask your mate's mum, is your Tony laking out? Because playing's something what babies do, but if you're going out playing football, you're laking out.
Right. Oh, I like that.
It only exists in about a 20-mile radius.
Were you attracted to Huddersfield because you wanted a Star Trek captain to be your university chancellor?
That was a huge thing as well. I really hoped I would get my degree handed to me by the captain of the Starship Enterprise, Jean-Luc Picard. And he did not. He did the day before me. But I did see him. He did a talk in the student union, because he's a legend, during or in between filming of one of the X-Men. So it was the coolest thing in the world.
And he is the coolest man, one of the coolest men on the planet.
He's fantastic, isn't he?
Yeah. Huddersfield, you see, so much going on. Who knew that you could come to university in Huddersfield and have Patrick Stewart as your university chancellor? Which I think he was for about 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, I don't know if he is anymore, but
no, he isn't anymore.
Yeah, and this is going back to a time when I think everything still was quite. You had to go to a place to do a thing or learn a thing or get ahead, which probably isn't the case anymore. That was 2004 to 2008 for me. And then I was also, during that time, I took a gap year, but it was paid work to work at the Lead Mill in Sheffield. And if you're a Blade, you must know about the Lead Mill.
Incredible venue. Fighting for its survival a little bit, to be fair.
Yes, there's a funny thing going on with the owners, which I have a bit of inside info on, but I probably wouldn't. That'll derail us on a huge tangent. So, but 2006, I was at the Lead Mill, and that was peak indie time, especially just at the height of the Arctic Monkeys, who I happened to know the singer and the drummer of back when I was at Barnsley College, which was where I went 16 to 18. So yeah, I had a brush with all of that, and in another life I might have been one of those indie bands, because it was pop music in 2004 to 2009-ish. Indie music was like it, post the Strokes, with Arctic Monkeys and everyone else, the Killers, the Kaiser Chiefs. And I could have been one of those. There were so many in Sheffield, but there was something about it that just didn't quite connect. And also I must have been aware that wasn't... I'm all about having stuff that has legs. I'm all about having stuff that can build naturally over time. And if there's anything that's happened with my YouTube channel, that's the way it's happened. It's happened organically over time. I even made the YouTube channel back in 2009, for example. Well, I actually made the YouTube channel in 2006. That was when I actually first created it to share videos just with friends and for uni stuff. But 2009 was the first guitar lesson I put up there to teach one-to-one privately, just as free advertising. And yeah, the kind of worldwide stuff. The internet opened up the world after then, particularly after YouTube. That's when it really became a thing. And the Arctic Monkeys as well with MySpace. That was how they became big. So yeah, I guess I followed a lot in their, somewhat in their footsteps, I guess. But yeah, it was very inspiring for sure.
I went on your YouTube channel and I clicked on the oldest video first.
I do that semi-regularly. I wondered who else might.
Yeah, and I was just fascinated because is it the third video is, or second or third video is Learn to Play Like Malcolm Young.
Yeah, man.
And you've got a spelling mistake in the title. Just
doesn't
let you know.
Doesn't surprise me. There still are. But no. Now I have a team of people. I make sure I don't put anything out without having two pairs of eyes on it. And if I've written it, I basically get someone else to rewrite it because I'm the worst.
But I was so impressed because the Malcolm Young one. So you've got two. Learn to Play Like Malcolm 1 and 2. And then the next one is Learn to Play Like Angus. Learn to Play Like Malcolm has had 61,000 views, but Learn to Play by Angus has only had 27,000. And I was like, that's awesome, because in that band, Malcolm was the man.
I agree.
And Angus just whittles over the top of whatever Malcolm's done.
So it was a student who told me that one of those videos had like 20,000 views back in about 2011. And that was when I went, wow, really? He was like, yeah, and you might, I don't think it was quite up and running yet, but AdSense wasn't far behind that. He was like, there's money there, you should look into that. And the fact that it was a Malcolm Young video that did better than Angus it just stems to the fact that I probably play more like Malcolm to Angus. I am more of a rhythm guy. I can do a lot of lead stuff, but I actually enjoy those Malcolm Young-esques, staying on a B chord for pretty much the entire song, but making it sound, giving it a groove, giving it a rhythm.
Yeah.
Here's a question for both of you then on that subject. While we're there, let's get you on to talk about AC/DC. What a great idea. But here's a question then. Do we think, because I'm with everybody that Malcolm's definitely, that's where we should be looking. Do you think Angus knows that and that's why he came up with the school outfit, just to give him a gimmick? Did Angus actually need a gimmick because of that?
No, I think Angus actually came from school when they started. I think that was the story, because he was only about 14 or something. When
he was really young, wasn't he? And trust me, it's a gimmick. And for now, it's almost like a uniform or a... he literally sees it as a character, a bit like Alice Cooper ended up. To cope with being Alice, he just literally sees it as a stage persona. I think Angus is the same. But I don't think he did it because Malcolm was going to steal the show. I've actually heard that in the early days, as soon as AC/DC started playing in a pub, everyone just started fighting. And they weren't lobbing fists or beer at the band. They were just lobbing it in the air. So the story goes he was running around stage so much, even from day dot, just to avoid being hit.
That's a great story.
He's incredible though, isn't he, really? I mean, I've seen DC quite a few times, and given that he's, I suppose pushing 70 now, he still runs around like a bloody lunatic.
They're getting there, aren't they? Yeah, Mick Jagger turned 80 recently, and I think that is, there's some stunning genetics and luck, but also dedication with that again, I think is really inspiring. You can say they've made the same album however many times, they've written the same song however many times, but it's great, and that is one way of having some success, especially in music. No one wants you to change too much, do they?
Well, no. I mean, it hasn't hurt the careers of Iron Maiden or Motorhead or whatever that have essentially...
all the biggest ones, really.
Sacrilegious. But yeah, they are producing essentially the same album over and over again.
AC/DC, if we're going to go there.
Yeah, just saying, I mean, there's that famous quote, isn't there? Some interview says to Angus or something, you've made the same album 10 times. And he says, no, we haven't. We've made the same album 11 times. And that's not true, because, the early stuff is way more diverse. I think it was post Back in Black, it becomes almost the same album every single time. But with Bond was definitely, I mean, you know, bagpipes, and it's a long way to the top and stuff like that. That stuff doesn't happen with DC anymore, and I think that's definitely Bond's influence.
Yeah, and therefore I think Brian Johnson can be quite hard done by with that, because I think he really did re-galvanise them when he joined. I mean, what other band can literally, the lead singer can die, and not only do they continue, but months later they release like their biggest commercial album. I mean, it's just unheard of.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of trauma there with that. There can't not be.
Yeah.
And it being in the 80s as well, like music was changing so much more. All these, you can even hear it in the Brian Johnson 80s years and the early 90s. Like there's suddenly gated reverbs on stuff, whereas there just wasn't before because it didn't really exist. But no, I'm a huge fan. I've seen them many times. I've even my favourite memory is seeing them at Wembley. It must have been 2015, something like that. And I had my brother's kid, my nephew Joseph, on my shoulders because he was like 8 and it was getting a bit hairy, but we were pretty close. So I was like, come here, boy. There you go.
So, you're talking about gated. What did you actually study at university? Was it guitar or was it music production?
So I made the choice partly from my family going, you really shouldn't do a BA, you should try and do a BSc if you can, because what job are you going to get with a BA?
Just for the record, I've got a BA, but anyway, carry on.
Anyone who's got a degree listen to this in the creative industries probably has, but my family definitely went. From inspiration from them, I did popular music production, but it was as a BSc, Bachelor of Science. And I changed degrees after 2 years because the first one was more music technology based and it included computer programming. And I just couldn't hack it at all. I was definitely going to fail that module. So I did what I could to pass that. But then it's popular music production, BSc is my actual degree. Mm. Now, as part of that, there was some web development, there was recording yourself, there was some playing, there was music theory. There was basically how to learn new bits of software, how to use Photoshop. There's a whole design module to it. And then if you think straight after that, I graduate 2008 and start being a guitar teacher in 2009. That couldn't have set me up any better because it wasn't about being the best guitarist at all. You had to be more self-sufficient than that. So my gamble to do that, rather than go somewhere like BIM, which was an option, they were absolutely flying in the mid-2000s. And I looked into it and it looked very appealing. But I wanted one that was more practical and was going to give me more transferable skills, I think is the term. To be able to be literally, if I was going to record my own songs, for example, if I was going to write my own songs, I wanted to record them. If I was going to be in a band, I was going to be part engineer, producer as well. I wasn't just going to turn up, play guitar and go, which has carried through with me, I think.
The timing is almost perfect, isn't it?
Yeah,
for something like that, which probably wasn't necessarily set up for what you're doing now, but is such a beautiful fit to what you're doing now. Right at the beginning of that world kicking off. I mean, your timing's been, impeccable.
Even better, I had a little bit of time to. So it was 2013 and 2012 when the iPad came out, and when the iPad came out, YouTube just also kind of went. Just YouTube got a buzz then, rather than guitar lessons on it or anything. Netflix was becoming a lot more prominent. iPlayer was a lot more prominent. And before them, these things just weren't there in their modern form. They just didn't have the amount of users. Broadband speeds weren't quick enough before 2010 to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I did actually have a window of a few years to figure stuff out. And I was still teching at the Lead Mill. I was in a wedding band during that time and I was doing one-to-one guitar lessons. But I had all these different things going. There were more than those. I did lights for O2 Academy and Leeds University Union. But I was looking at all these almost like racehorses going, which one am I going to back? And I ended up backing over time, just YouTube, and I let all the others go, including one-to-one lessons, really, because it was just taking away time from what would eventually lead to a full-time job, and then being sort of a manager of quite a few staff as I am now. Just crazy to think about.
I think the iPad thing as well is really relevant. It's same with the phones as well. But you had to put people on sofas, because iPlay just didn't work on a desktop computer. You're not going to sit in front of a desktop computer for hours on end. You have to put people in comfortable places to let them actually lose time to those things.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to make it where you have to take it to where the people are and what they're using. I mean, even laptops in 2008 were pretty beefy.
Yeah.
And then in the 2010s, they just became more and more affordable, portable, and more battery life, all this kind of thing. And then the creator economy starts, where I only learned, it was the first time I went to NAMM in 2018, that I'm one of the OG guitar teachers, as they call them, the originals. And I genuinely thought I'd missed the boat with being a guitar YouTuber, because there was already a lot of people already established. Marty Schwartz, Justin Guitar, all these other people in America like that were already selling DVDs and stuff like that, selling books. I was like, oh wow, there's no way I can be one of them. But maybe, well, from me making the first lessons that I made, they were just to advertise one-to-one lessons. And they were what got me fully booked as a one-to-one teacher, because the YouTube lessons got views. So it was only people in Leeds finding them, along with a few Skype students, really. But it was one of those videos back in, it was the start of 2013, which I believe now is still the most watched guitar lesson on YouTube.
Oh, is that the one that's like, what is it? Play 10 songs with 2 easy chords.
That's the one, yeah, 2013. That was filmed on a £20 webcam. I thought about the lighting and it's edited okay, but it looks like a kid's produced it, you know what I mean? But there's also something really disarming about it, which, you know, often people say, would you go back and change anything? Not one thing. There's something that works about it. And what you got to learn with this stuff, if it works, just leave it alone. And yeah, that's the one that changed everything for me, for sure. If that video hadn't have taken off, or I hadn't have made that one video, you probably wouldn't be bothered to speak to me now.
Oh, I'm quite friendly. I would have spoken to you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. But I probably wouldn't even be, you know, called or known as Andy Guitar. You know, it's that video definitely changed everything for me. Just through so many opportunities, but by opportunities I mean, you know, that gave me the confidence to put more time into it and say no to one-to-one lessons and other work, so that it would then be a self-fulfilling thing, you know what I mean? If you put more time into it, of course it's going to snowball, hopefully.
Did you find, again, that you were in the right place at the right time when COVID hit? Did your viewers grow exponentially, as we kept being told that guitars were selling exponentially during that period? Did you have the same sort of impact on your business?
Yes, but I had a funny reaction to it. I've thought about this a lot, actually, because yes, there was a huge boost, and I had the ideal series of videos, which is my 10-day course. That 10-day course literally came out of me years before doing the Yoga with Adrian 30-day yoga and never getting past day 10. And also, so that's me sort of being lazy, but also when I've watched her other videos, or when I watched the other ones, I'm like, these aren't as good as those first 10. I really like those first 10. So literally me having a lazy bone streak when I'll do that sort of thing, which was more like really just being in a room with a student and just walking them through it as long as it takes. That's as long as the lesson will be, not leaving anything up to them to do. And that was it had already been up 4 years, and getting a lot of views. It's for years been my most watched video, most months. But that was the perfect course for most people in lockdown, because if you were ever going to learn guitar, you started in lockdown, I guess. But looking back, I really wished I could have done more of like, another real inspiration of mine is Joe Wicks. I really want to be the Joe Wicks of guitar. Like, that is actually my North Star. Yeah. I just think that making what he does with exercise available to absolutely everyone, from a 4-year-old kid to a 91-year-old who's literally in a wheelchair, he will get you literally moving your arms and enthusiastic and motivated. And that is my attitude to both music and for people learning guitar, absolutely. But I couldn't bring... what I did was look at everything that I offered and went, I can just see all the flaws in it, actually, including from the website to my thumbnails to my video quality. I just looked at the views everything was getting and went, I can just see a million ways everything can be better. And therefore, my priority was to change all that and to set up all that, rather than what I could have done, which is more of the Joe Wicks thing and just go live 5 days a week. And I know the going live thing really took its toll on Joe Wicks as well, because just before the first one, the PE with Joe thing, he broke his arm, or he broke his forearm or something. So we had to do the first 6 weeks of it, which is all like the main ones, with a broken arm. But what a guy. But like, to still go ahead with all that. And I know I can say what a guy, because I wasn't able to do that, even though I was physically able to do it. I just chose not to. And I don't regret it, because of what it's put us in a position now where I've got... Before the pandemic, I was literally doing all of this on my own, apart from one developer a couple of days a week, or 1 day a week, and then another video editor, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but still doing so much myself video editing, along with all my own messages, customer service, Instagram, everything. And now we have 6 full-time members of staff and another 1 part-time. And I wrote down, actually, because I wanted to lay it all out, I actually have to deal with 15 people every month just to keep the ship going forward, just to keep all the wheels turning. Which is a huge... That's been the biggest change. And I've made a lot of errors in that time as well. When I started hiring people, I thought I could keep everything the same as when I just had a couple of part-timers. And you just can't. You can't structure things that way. You have to add a little bit of the corporate thing with things like weekly meetings and some sort of online hive mind thing where you can all write things down and have tasks ticked off. We use Notion, by the way. Have you guys heard of Notion?
No, I haven't heard of Notion.
Notion.so could change your life, especially for anything collaborative. Give it all a Google, because it's been fantastic for me. But yeah, things like we use Slack now rather than email, just anything to make it all communication and tasks and to-do lists as easy and as streamlined and as quick and effortless as possible. I learned all of that the hardest way. I had no idea how to set it up. And I can now really see how if you've properly built... So I first came across you guys when you first started talking to Bruce John Dickinson of Water Bear. He's been a huge mentor for me, and he's taught me through a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I can now see how you can build kind of one business, and if you build it a certain way and you get experience in that, even if you learn all the hard lessons, you can replicate it in other ways or other areas of your life, if nothing else. So that's been the biggest learning curve. And we don't do it perfect, but do it a lot better than we used to, and that's the main thing.
What I find is astonishing about that is, so you've got that number of people, right? When I'm not doing this, for 3 days a week, I'm executive director of something called the MIA, which is the Music Industries Association, which is the trade body for the musical instrument industry, right? So we count Fender and Yamaha and Roland at one end, and PMT and Guitar and Andertons and what have you at the other end, and everything in between. And there's 2.5 of us.
Yeah.
There's double the resource available to you than is available to the MIA.
And
which seems remarkable, but then seems right at the same time almost.
Well, there's a few things that really changed that. So one was, frankly, TikTok and Reels and this kind of daily content. because that all happened at the same time. That was 2020 when that suddenly shot up. And before them, I mean, as YouTubers, we were kind of reeling because we were like, oh God, we've got to embrace this short vertical content, but it doesn't earn you any revenue. It's not ideal for like linking out to check out my course or anything. If people just watch your TikTok, they just want to watch your TikTok. They don't want to go somewhere else. They're on TikTok. And I think we were all like, I know we have to embrace it, but we really like YouTube. Can we just keep doing that? But yeah, eventually I figured out a way to do it, which is to basically have an editor chop up both my YouTube videos and I film reels as well as. Sometimes it's just playing the song. Sometimes it's doing a 30-second lesson of it. Sometimes it's just a quick tip. But we're constantly chopping up like widescreen videos into vertical content, which is hard for a guitar because a guitar's horizontal.
Wide. Yeah.
But if you put this half on top and then the one hand on top and the other hand on the other, or sometimes a wide of me at the bottom, it works really well. All of that had to be like figured out on the fly. And then the other thing is moving over to a membership. So as well as doing YouTube, I have a website, andyguitar.co.uk, which has always had bags of free content. I used to have courses on there, which I sold individually, books and DVDs and whatnot. But then we changed business model, and it was just before the pandemic as well. So I was incredibly lucky that we managed to just get in before then. But we pulled the plug and said it's going to be a membership. And this is 100% following the Scott's Bass Lessons model. Shout out to Scott Devine. He's a Leeds lad. He's still in Leeds. He's an absolute legend. And he's helped mentor me with a lot of this stuff as well. He was the guy that said, pull the plug. That was actually at the London, one of the London guitar shows in 2019, one that I did some teaching at, actually.
Oh, that was at the Future Publishing one, wasn't it?
It was the Guitar and Bass London one in 2019.
Yeah,
it was a good one, that. It was great.
Yeah, it was at the Business Design Centre in Islington.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was talking to him there and he was like, pull the plug, go for membership. And it's a risk because, you know, all these courses that I was selling on DVD for 30 quid, to make more of them, it wasn't worth making more of them, basically, because you sold one and then the revenue died after that, really.
Yeah.
So, and when you, every time, the better we were making the website and the more users we got, the more our costs were going up, because we had to try and keep up with the Joneses and just maintain the amount of traffic that we currently had. So we changed it to a membership, and I do weekly live streams. We have a Discord with the tied to the membership as well. $9.99 a month, and that's transformed everything as well. And I think it's made it a ton better for actually the guests are you know, the people in the membership, the members, because they're now. I couldn't make live streams work before. I tried doing live streams, and we just have random people dipping in and dipping out, and there was no consistency with it. And now we have all these consistent people that check in with me every Monday and keep their playing on track, and then in between times they keep up with each other and get peer-to-peer support on the Discord, and they're all following my lessons.
The community element of it is massive, absolutely massive.
I agree.
Having done that, and everybody listens to this know that I do a podcast with Steve Hogarth of the Marillion, and that's a big Patreon base. But the community aspect of that group is what keeps that spinning. Because
100%.
Actually, it's grown out of that. It's gone way beyond what we ever intended it would be. And that's all. And actually, bizarrely, Patreon's really cottoned onto this because they've built communities now into their new app. And we were running with Discord as well. And effectively, we can replace Discord now with communities within the Patreon app for what we need it for, and keeping it all in one place. So Patreon have clearly worked out that you get that there, you're going to get more people using that as their collection point. But that's the bit that drives the ongoing payment. Yes, it's the content. Yes, it's the bonus. Yes, it's the early access. Yes, it's the bonus content. But the cherry on the cake is all the friends and all the relationships people are forming within that group. And the one thing they've got in common is they're all members of X, whatever it might be. It doesn't really matter what it is, but that's your common thing, and it just gives it a momentum all of its own. It's incredible.
It really does. And I think it's just the case with learning an instrument in general, or even learning many things like languages. Unless you get peer-to-peer support, you will probably stop doing it. Because if you do anything new and it's difficult, but you really want to do it, at some point it will become hard, and it's too easy to stop if you're just going through all of that alone. And as soon as you have someone else, so for someone going to the gym, that might be a gym buddy or playing sport. For music, that might, for some people, be joining a band, but that tends only to be people of a younger age. It's harder for people to join bands as they get older. And for online learners, it is absolutely these online communities, and then hopefully things like open mic nights or, the teaching events that are sometimes put on, those sorts of things.
It does actually work its way into the physical world. I mean, I was at Merlin did a weekend in Leicester, and the community of people who listen to the podcast all met for a picnic. There's like 70 people outside the De Montfort Hall on the Sunday lunchtime who have known each other for I think because that podcast started in lockdown as well, there was that shared sense of experience at the beginning. These people, are then sat out in the park on a lovely day, in whenever it was, May time, just sharing a vol au vent. So it does break through. It breaks into that real world, and it was a really really lovely chill with people you feel because actually you've all been posting comments and having chats for such a long time.
You have, and you have the same reference points.
Yes.
Which have been lost with things like Netflix now, because not everyone has Netflix or a Disney Plus. So
or has watched the same things.
If you've not watched the same show, you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have a community of people who've all watched the same stuff, like in this case, my lesson videos, you have the same reference points, so you can talk to people about it. And you can't talk to your family or friends about it unless they're following Andy Guitar stuff, and they're probably not. It's probably one member of the family. And this is something I've seen from a couple of angles. I've seen it with so my lead web developer ran a salsa class back when I started back when I first moved to Leeds in like 2010. He's since basically run my website from like 2012, but as part of the classes, there was a huge social side to that, which for me was like a second university experience. And it was all run on his website. And it was really me seeing how he did that meant, you know what you're doing with websites, because this is a lot more than a website. And the other huge reference I would say has actually been Justin Hawkins of The Darkness doing his YouTube thing.
That's
I'm
brilliant.
a huge fan of that, and I've therefore signed up to his Patreon. Therefore, you get access to a Discord community. And I've seen it from literally a fan side, because when it comes to The Darkness, I am just a fan. And I've been like, wow, this is great. And I could also see what he was getting from it as well, which is that direct connection with fans and actually having just really knowing who your hardcore audience is, takes away a lot of self-doubt or doubt about what you're putting out, like the music you're doing and the gigs you're doing.
It really does. Having been that side of it, at least with the H stuff, it's very empowering. Very, very. If you're part of the creative angle behind it, it's very empowering. But incredibly powerful. And then the thing, of course, the other bit is how the direction the audience then takes you, because they take it on again. They take it on again, and they inspire you, and they push you, and all manner of things that you don't expect. And then and then of course you realise that your audience is really, really creative and really talented and all those kind of things as well, because you start to hear some of the things they're doing, and you go, wow, you're a really cool bunch of people.
You do. And can I compare that to what I was doing before the membership thing? So when I just used to sell courses and I was doing my own customer service, all I used to hear about were the issues people had.
Yeah.
This DVD doesn't work. This hasn't arrived. I can't download that. I can't get access to this. And honestly, sometimes you're like, is anyone feeling okay about that? Am I doing a good job at all? And then as soon as you have the Discord, we have a welcome thing where as soon as someone first starts using it, just say hello in this. Before I've replied to that, 3 other members have replied to it and made that person feel welcome. We also do an online open mic night, open mic Sundays, where people can actually at any point in the week film themselves playing whatever they're learning at the moment. So that's a song, an exercise, a solo, absolutely anything. But we all share it on a Sunday. And from everyone being really timid and really scared to be on camera at all or perform or even post too much sometimes on the Discord, some people are really silent and just are those watchers. That's got everyone involved. And of course, I led by example. I was filming stuff every Sunday. The first time we started it off. Now I don't have to. They're all posting that community knows that's a safe thing to do. And it's made many of them, go to open mic nights or start, create an Instagram and start sharing on that and just add other people who do what they do. And that's an amazing motivator. And you need something to keep you accountable, if not on the daily, at least weekly. It doesn't matter even if you're just picking up your guitar 10 minutes a day. You need to know that other people are too, because then you feel compelled to. It literally just it triggers something within us to do it. Just like if I'm learning, I've always struggled. My struggle is learning languages. I can remember music, that just sticks. Languages and words do not stick. I have to know them again and again and again to get anywhere. But if I was moving to Spain, or if I was meeting people week on week who they just spoke Spanish, you will pick it up. And if you do that for a certain length of time, then it will come more and more natural. But you need other people around you. And I think it needs to be peers. It's not just teachers. It needs to be other learners as well. It can be a mix of levels. It can be absolute beginners to advanced. I mean, when I do group lessons, I do group lessons with total beginners, acoustic, and advanced electric. How can we have both of those guys in the same lesson? Well, think of any of the greatest guitar songs ever, and you have a strummed guitar line and also advanced solos that probably go over it. Something like Sweet Child of Mine. You can just strum it as 4 chords for the vast majority of the song, or you can learn the slash bit and kind of everywhere in between. So that's an example, and that's how it can really work, or I've seen it really work well with these community stuff. And it is rewarding as a teacher to see that as well.
I went through all of the songs that you've got, like 14 years worth, and I just wondered, you're sitting there going, oh Christ, what song can I do next? Is the community suggesting songs to you?
Yes, in fact, they're able to share with me their practice guides. Some they've written by hand, some they've made on some sort of online spreadsheet, and I'll absolutely have a nosy at that. And also on the live streams are really good because you can just get a feel for what's working. For example, some of my biggest YouTube videos recently have been these decade videos, top 10 songs of the 70s with 4 chords. Yeah. You'll notice with all my titles, I try and get as many numbers in there as possible. It just does. The YouTube likes numbers. What can I say? Top 10s and decade videos and stuff like that. But all of those songs have been run past people in the live streams I do every Monday, and it's when you're on a good one, all the comments light up. And whenever we do something that's a bit more modern, like 2000s or more modern, that comments just a lot less. It's very tumbleweed. And I'm like, oh, okay. Even 90s. I'm on premium members. 90s is a lot less popular than I thought it would be for the majority. But 70s is the gold mine. So, I mean, that does so surprise, many good bands. It
does really surprise me though, because so my godson can't believe that I'm actually talking to you.
Oh,
and I was like, I went round to their house a couple of weeks ago. He's just gone off to university, and I said, "Oh, I'm recording with Andy," and he was like, "Oh my god!" Just like, because he started learning COVID times. He found his dad had got an old guitar that was in the back of the wardrobe, sort of thing, and started playing. And of course, he's gone to university and he can play the guitar. So, it's a great sort of icebreaker, isn't it, when you get to halls of residence and stuff. And where was I going with this? What were we talking about? Oh, Christ. Oh, sorry, Ben, if you do listen to this. I was going to get you in. So he's 18. That's where I was going with this. He's 18. And I'd have thought that 18-year-olds would have been more interested. Look at my own kids. They're interested in modern music. not 90s, which is like Oasis, 80s, Guns N' Roses, blah, 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 70s, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones and stuff. But it does appear, because I teach at BIM as well, that 18-year-olds are still really, really into Guns N' Roses and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. And it's really weird, because like when I was 18, that would have been like me listening to, I don't know, Bill Haley or something.
It would, because it is that long ago. What is it? Like, yeah, 1993 is 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, which is the same as the 90s was to, the 60s or something. But, the change with that is 100% the internet, and it's 100% Spotify and streaming music and social media, just making all music omnipresent at all times. I really felt the change in 2015, which was the last time I was able to film a new song tutorial and it do well overnight. So I filmed Adele, Hello. I heard it on the radio that morning. I instantly filmed it, put it up by midday, and by like midnight that night, it had already got like 10 or 20,000 views, and it was just going to skyrocket. After then, any new song, people just don't want to search for it. They don't want to learn it. It's all about learning the classics, which is really anything from some of the 2000s have become those, but even of the 2010s, for me, I'm only going to film like Imagine Dragons, Arctic Monkeys, the ones that can really fill a stadium worldwide. Because other than that, I may as well just film. There's so many more songs. And I'm not, like Marty Schwartz has been releasing, 7 videos a week for the last 100 years. So he will film eventually every song ever. And I've decided I cannot. I'm not going to play that game. But yeah, of the ones that are worth me, because I only release 2 YouTube videos a week. That's the deal I made with myself, really. To keep the momentum going. That's been the case for the best part of 10 years. I've maybe in that time released 1 video for 1 of those weeks, but it's pretty much been 2 a week forever. And if I'm only doing 2 a week, there's a lot of great songs from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And there's really not as many that are guaranteed to get any views at all, even if they're played on the radio, classic songs. And there's a difference between, a radio hit that people want on in the car or that someone will listen to, and what they actually want to learn. Which one do you actually want to play?
At the moment, my 2 sons are 16 and 11. And at the moment, Josh is wandering around singing Vienna by Billy Joel, which you have to know Billy Joel to know that song, because it's not in his top hits. His top sort of the top 10 or what have you. And my son, who is 11, is doing Spider-Man transition edits on his iPad to Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Where do either of those 2 things come from?
The internet, TikTok,
I mean,
Spotify, and some playlist that someone made that they happened to stumble upon, and then when they wanted to listen more to it, more of it, it's all there. Whereas if 15 years ago or 20 years ago, if you wanted to learn about this stuff, you just found new music in the NME and then went to HMV and listened to it and bought it. Even when we were doing all the, because I'll be honest, I was at uni in the 2005s-ish, so we did a lot of file sharing, and not even through the internet. If someone had the CD collection, they digitized it, and then we shared that hard drive around. Yeah. So we weren't even using the internet. We were just using what music we bought, but we shared it with everyone. And we were way more into what was released that year or that couple of years than the classics, even in the mid-2000s. As soon as it gets to the 2010s, it's all about everything older.
Have you not done and I don't know. I mean, I did go through all of the videos, and some really leapt out, which I want to ask you a question about one of them particularly, because I just love the song. But like, have you done Taylor Swift? Because I would have thought
plenty.
Oh, you have?
Plenty. My biggest one is, the easiest. That's my other one of my recurring titles. The easiest Taylor Swift song to play on guitar, which is You Belong With Me, because it's only got 4 chords and it doesn't have a key change. A lot of those easy 4-chord songs, that are a bit of a ballad or a pop song, as soon as they got a bloody key change, there's suddenly sharps in it and stuff. Or you've just doubled the amount of chords that are in the song. So I'm like, damn, I can't, there's no easy way to play it on guitar without bar chords, which suddenly means I look at that and go, not only is it not as snazzy a title on YouTube, but someone who's learning it can't play the full song if they're a beginner. So for me, I just go, okay, I'm probably not gonna do that song. I'll choose another one by Taylor Swift.
Yeah. So the one that really leapt out at me, and only because I wouldn't have thought that many people knew what it was Jane Says by Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, well, that one comes up on the searches a lot because it's a 2-chord song. Now, whether I don't know it super, super well, so I don't know my Jane's Addiction super, super well. There might be, there are different riffs in it, but I think the basic 2 chords are G and A, so 2 beginner-friendly chords, and there's no capo needed, which just puts it right at the top of my list for ones that I have to do.
Right.
And that probably wouldn't be the case for, Marty Schwartz or someone else, but for me, that's like...
No, I think
prime thing.
When I learned, I think the first song I ever learned to play was Sailing by Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
Because my sister's friend's older brother gave me, I don't know if you're too young, do you remember stuff that was done on a banding machine? So you got that sort of like purple ink. Yeah, no, like you're looking confused.
Purple ink? No, I don't. I probably do, but I can't think.
It was how you photocopied before you photocopied.
Yeah, it was. So basically it got some sort of like paper that was purple. So you had like plain paper on the top with whatever it was on, and then you got like copy paper underneath, which I think is where CC comes from with emails, isn't it? It's
carbon copy.
Carbon copy, got you.
And it was a banding machine because it was like this big wheel, and you turned it, and it would impress upon the purple paper underneath, which would then impress on a clean piece of paper. So he gave me some of these and I actually quite like Rod and the Faces. I'm not a big fan of the song Sailing, but I think it was only like 4 chords or something. I can't remember now. But actually, when you sit there as a beginner and you've played a song that you recognise, it's like a giant leap forward, isn't it? Because before that, I just got a chord book, and you look at a chord book and you go E, A, but you don't know what you're doing. And the chord books are certainly the chord books then were just like, these are all the chords in E. So yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with this.
They weren't actually. What they normally were here's every possible way to play an E chord.
Yeah,
and that would be the first 10 pages.
Yeah.
And then the next 10 pages, okay, here's 100 ways to play an F chord. Because it's made by people making books. But I totally agree. There's a huge reward that comes from recognizing what you're playing. Comes from recognizing what you're playing in general, but then that it matches a song that you know so well. And my first experience of that was actually using, this is probably the reason why I signed up for a music tech course at uni, was because it was using a computer. It was using an Amiga Commodore 400. It was using the music production software Octamed. Anyone remember Octamed?
No.
See, I have an older brother who is 13 years older than me, and he was doing all this when I was growing up, like when I was 5-6 years old. So I was seeing him doing all this, but when he moved out and, had his first kid, he gave me all his old stuff so that he could have the third bedroom. So, yeah, shout out to John Crowley, who's recently completed his first marathon at the age of, 50. So, well done, mate. But, yeah, that was a way that using MIDI sequencing as a 9-year-old kid, I was able to draw these dots on the piano roll. You know what I'm talking about, the grid, and able to recreate melodies or drum patterns or stuff that I just heard on the radio, or stuff that I was able to kind of musically keep in my head. And I cannot tell you how much of a help that was, because as much as my older brother played guitar, he was not great at teaching me anything. The first chord he taught me was a C chord. And as a 9-year-old kid, on his big, what was the guitar he gave me? An Encore Stratocaster style. So, which was just the heaviest guitar in the universe. This thing was heavier than like matter itself. So I was trying to play that, couldn't at all. So basically put it down. That stayed in the corner for the next 4 years. But I was playing on keyboards. We had a piano in the house, and on these softwares. And pianos as well and keyboards, they don't hurt your fingertips. Guitars do from day dot. Adult or kids, they hurt your fingertips. There's a physical aspect to it. That was a huge help. But being able to see it on the screen meant that when I was learning guitar from age 13, I didn't have a teacher other than a few school lessons, which I was terrible at. I was probably one of the worst in the class. But I was at 13, through plugging away in my bedroom, I was able to find the things that I could already play on kind of a keyboard or that I could draw in this software. And that was a huge help. And I've always kept up with the production side with Cubase, Nuendo. Although I always loved the recording software where you could do MIDI with it as well. GarageBand's amazing these days. If I had GarageBand, it would have been even more superb because it just sounds so professional and so plug and play. And I never gave GarageBand the credit before I actually had it to play with and saw what you could do with it.
To be fair, it's got a lot better over the... I don't know. I bought my new MacBook right at the start of COVID because I'd gone from lecturing in a classroom to actually having to lecture online. And my old MacBook, which was 10 years old at that point, could cope with being on the internet, doing a PowerPoint, plugging it in, doing it at uni and everything. But it couldn't cope with having to be on Zoom at the same time. So I sort of bought a new one. And of course you get like an updated version of GarageBand. The GarageBand had stopped updating on the old one because it just couldn't cope with the new version of GarageBand. So when I got it, I was like, where is everything? And it's now Logic Lite, isn't it? Really?
It is 100%, and that's amazing these days. Because if you do want to do it more professionally, I would use Logic to record an album out of choice if I was having to mix it or anything. And it's got all the it even does its own mastering, even on GarageBand, and it's all on one button. Try and master your own song as a kid. You're like you've never even heard of it, whereas just by pressing buttons kind of randomly and figuring out what stuff does. Oh, that makes it louder, but it doesn't distort. Great, because louder always sounds better, right? But yeah, the visual of stuff was super, super helpful. It wasn't until I was literally at college or probably at uni that I was literally 18 years old before I could actually record a guitar at home and record the audio as well, because I didn't get software to do that until uni. But as soon as you start doing that, you get to see the waveform, see whether you're in time or not, and you're not, because it's kind of impossible to be directly in time with something. You're always a little bit out. You want to be in the pocket. How big is that pocket? Let's zoom in and have a look. Where is it? And no, that was a huge help, which is why I took the step to do lots of on-screen help with all my videos, basically since I had the editing help to do it. That's why I need help. I can't do all the on-screen chords, strum along diagrams and prompts for the next chord, even like in a chord progression. We don't quite go as far as having the bouncy ball that some of the apps do now, but we're not far off. We'll literally tell you which bar you're on at a certain time in a chord progression and a full song play along, for example. And that's me thinking back to when I was learning and needing that visual that something like literally Optimed gave me back when I was 9. And I see how much, some people are visual learners. Some people can learn just by listening. As much as you can, some people learn by doing, kinetic learners. And as much as you can make all those things connect together, you're just going to supercharge learning, and it's just easier.
Wow. I think it's probably about time we drew that. We've been rabbiting on for nearly an hour, which has gone in like literally, it's gone in the click of a finger.
Yeah, as you can tell, I don't often think about this stuff much.
No. Clearly,
I don't dwell on it.
No, I'm determined not to ask you about something like Neighbours because we might be on for another hour. Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. And I think at some point you really need to come back on. We need to, because I reckon we could pick this up and go again and carry on talking about a whole raft of stuff. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Jace, back in the saddle. Back in the
yes,
saddle, it
mate.
feels like old times, mate.
Yeah, great. Well,
Well,
on
we've been
that
talking
note-
over each other all the time. It's been like
I know.
never been away.
I know. On that note, we should stop. So I'm going to stop. All right?
I'll stop too. Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.